okay to be gay. We are different in many ways. Doesn't matter if you're a boy, girl, or somewhere in between. We all are part of one big family.
Imagine going to a TED Talk. You're ready to hear some new perspectives. You're excited to listen to someone new and exciting speak. And then, Avada Kedavra, Harry Potter pops out with a ukulele and fiddles you straight into a casket. I haven't talked about queer kid stuff for quite a while, so I was planning on doing a video where I caught up with Lindsay and the gang to see what kind of happy-go-lucky gay things they've been up to. To my honest surprise, I saw that Lindsay recently gave a TED Talk on why kids need to learn about gender and sexuality. Help me. Now before we jump into this epic cringe, I want to first let you all know that my summer merch is finally available, and I know you guys are going to love it. Check this out. I have an all-new Toucan shirt, new Honest Bear merch, limited edition Avalon shirts, a hilarious Liberal Tears mug, and so much more. So head over to grabmymerch.com and use the temporary promo code SUMMER to get free shipping on all items. Please help support my channel and bring your conservative views out of the closet. Now, I have explained my grievances towards this awful queer kid stuff show before, but I want to make myself clear. Once kids reach a certain age, it's perfectly fine for them to learn about gender and sexuality. Most sex ed classes are taught to kids around the age of 11, give or take. But my issue is that Lindsay, by her own admission, is creating a course for very, very young children to learn about gender, sexuality, and other things that are simply not appropriate for that age group.
What you just heard is the theme song for my web series, Queer Kid Stuff, where I make LGBTQ+ and social justice videos for all ages. And when I say all ages, I mean literal babies to your great-great-grandma.
So although she tries to make it sound as if this course is created for all ages, I mean, the show is literally called Queer Kid Stuff. It's in the name, it's in your description, and your set is clearly aimed at very young kids. Plus, you admit that you want to teach literal babies about concepts that they are not nearly mature enough to even begin to understand. So not only is this inappropriate, it's unnecessary at best.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Whoa, they're talking about gay stuff with kids? But talking to kids about gay stuff is actually crucial. The American Academy of Pediatrics has found that children have a solid understanding of their gender identity by the age of 4.
Right off the bat, I knew I was going to enjoy this TED Talk because this is the first time Lindsay has ever attempted to substantiate her claims that babies should learn about gender and sexuality. I went ahead and found the source that she cited, and I don't think she's accurately representing this. American Academy of Pediatrics says that around age 2, children become aware of the physical differences between boys and girls. By 3, most kids can label themselves as either a boy or a girl, and by age 4, most children have a stable sense of their gender identity. This sounds a lot more like it's referring to children realizing societal standards for gender and applying it to their acknowledged sex rather than the progressive notion you take on your web series. It's unnecessary to try and teach literal babies about these complex issues when, according to your own source, cross-gender play is a normal part of gender development and exploration regardless of future gender identity. So just if Johnny will one day become Katrina, by the age of 4, his understanding of gender identity is affiliated with the fact that he's a boy based on physical attributes. This is also supported by previous government studies which found children exhibit gendered behavior before they reach an age where they can conceptualize gender. Even more so, your justification for trying to teach very young children about sexuality and gender is that by the age of 4, they have a solid understanding of their gender identity. This is a terrible approach, not only for the reasons I just mentioned, but also because hormones influencing sexual preferences do not fully manifest until well into puberty, years after the targeted age for queer kids stuff. Lastly, and most importantly, a 2013 study which followed up on 127 transgender kids found that 54% of the cases desisted, as in they no longer identified as transgender. Keep in mind this occurred in the Netherlands, where medical services for transitions are free. The data clearly supports that the majority of kids cease to feel transgender as they get older. So Lindsay, your justification for confusing kids about gender and sexuality is not founded on fact or backed up by any data. Honestly, you should just let kids come to their own conclusions rather than attempting to indoctrinate them with feminist gender theory.
Now, most parents want their children to become kind, empathetic, self-confident adults, and exposure to diversity is an important part of that social and emotional development.
Of course, parents want their kids to be kind and empathetic, but listen to this very specific wording she uses. She claims exposure to diversity is an important part of this. Now, I agree kids should be exposed to diversity, but this is an awful conflation. Lindsay is advocating for teaching children about drag, sex, feminism, and all the different genders. Why on earth are you conflating the acceptance of all people with in-depth explanations of topics children will have to sort out on their own years down the road? There are many other ways to teach children about diversity, ways that many kids could better understand and even utilize in other scenarios. Why not teach kids that people are different but equal and deserve to be treated with kindness and respect regardless of their differences? You certainly don't need to teach kids about feminist gender theory and conflate this with diversity.
Gender is about how we feel and how we express ourselves. Sexuality is about love and gender and family, not about sex.
It's completely within Lindsay's right to hold these opinions, but as we've seen from multiple different studies, gender is not just about how we feel. There is a biological basis that plays a role as well. Secondly, when it comes to sexuality, sure, it's about love, family, and sex. It's not either or. Even Lindsay's scripted speech reveals fundamental logical flaws within her arguments, again proving my point that Lindsay should not be teaching innocent, impressionable children about these topics.
In one of my earliest episodes about gender, I used the idea of pronouns to underscore the definition and introduce gender-neutral pronouns like they and them. I encourage children to think about their own pronouns and to ask others for theirs.
As we've already seen from child transgender regret rates, encouraging kids to talk about their own pronouns or whatever is kind of unnecessary and not supported by the data. Of course, as kids get older, sure, but you don't specify, so I'm going to assume you're referring to very young children. A very tiny percentage of the population refer to themselves with different pronouns, and our world doesn't operate within your feminist gender theory worldview. Not only is this gender pronoun issue something that kids can learn when they're older, kids begin recognizing and stereotyping gender groups when they're extremely young. This is evolutionary, and these pronouns and stereotypes exist for the sake of running an efficient society.
Let kids be kids. Well, that's a nice sentiment and all, but only if it actually includes all kids. Just a few weeks ago, a 15-year-old in Huntsville, Alabama, died by suicide after being bullied for being gay. In 2018, it was a 7-year-old.
Lindsay then goes on to tell some very sad stories about young kids who committed suicide after being bullied for being gay. Now, of course, this is awful. No one is denying this, and anytime someone takes their own life after severe bullying, it's a heartbreaking tragedy. But Lindsay's attempt to use these heartbreaking stories to justify the creation of her web series is moot. You, my friend, are honing in on a niche within a much broader problem. bullying. Children are bullied at school all the time for multiple different reasons. I understand the reasoning behind queer kid stuff in your mind, but when you actually look at what you're saying, it doesn't hold up. Like I previously said, it would make far more sense to teach children to be accepting of everyone regardless of their differences. Even if everyone in the entire world was 100% accepting of gay people, people would still be bullied for other reasons. Black children are also committing suicide due to bullying. Teach kids that bullying is wrong and they should be kind to everyone. You don't need to make learning this important concept limited to gender and sexuality.
According to the Human Rights Campaign, there have been 128 killings of trans people in 87 cities across 32 states since 2013, and those are only the reported cases. And 80% of those killings were of trans women of color.
Again, this is horrible. Anyone who takes the life of anyone, especially if motivated by bigotry, is a disgusting, sick human being who should be prosecuted to the highest extent. Liberals are always bringing up intersectionality. Even you, Lindsay, you say that most of the victims of these tragic killings were trans women of color. So according to your intersectional logic, these trans women are marginalized in two different ways. They're trans and they're black. This again proves my point that children should be educated to accept all people. There are ways to convey this point, to help children understand this important concept without teaching babies about drag queens, feminism, and sex.
The YouTube comments on my videos are not much better. I'm used to the harassment. I get messages daily telling me I'm a pedophile and that I should kill myself in a number of increasingly creative ways.
She then goes into a monologue about all of the mean comments she's received, and obviously this is wrong. I mean, no one should be encouraging this woman to commit suicide, but when you're a public figure spreading controversial opinions, you're going to receive nasty comments on the internet. I get them, you get them, we all get them. This doesn't make you into a victim or a martyr. This makes you a regular public figure on the internet. Plus, I have to ask, what exactly are you talking about? Your YouTube comment section has been disabled for decades.
I choose joy. I choose rainbows and unicorns and glitter, and I sing that it's okay to be gay with my childhood stuffed teddy bear. I make queer media for kids because I wish I had this when I was their age.
So despite the fact this is incredibly cheesy, I can at least understand the idea behind her web series a little bit more. I understand she wanted something like this as a kid, and you see, she's so close. She's so close to making a near agreeable point, but then she continues talking.
Who they are and who they can be, no matter who they love or what they wear or what pronouns they use, and I want them to love others for their differences, not in spite of them.
This is just flat out wrong and does not work to achieve your end goal. You should not love someone for their differences. This is just patronizing. You should love everyone regardless of their differences. Your character is what should define you, not your sexuality, skin color, or weight.
Talk to a kid about gender. Talk to a kid about sexuality, teach them about consent, tell them it is okay for boys to wear dresses and for girls to speak up. Let's spread radical queer joy. Thank you.
Yup. Go out and preach to the daycare about gender. Put a baby boy in a dress. Throw a Tonka truck at a little girl, and then Lindsay fully destroys her near agreeable point. Here's yet another issue with this Queer Kids Stuff show. If Lindsay were creating a resource for people who wanted to access it, fine. I still think the fact this dumb show is being incorporated into schools is a problem, but if she wanted to simply create a resource for gay kids to access, then fine. But this is so much more than a web series. This is activism. You're calling for action, for these listeners to teach kids about complex issues that they are not mature enough to understand. Even more so, you say spread queer joy. Why can't we just spread joy? Why do these crucial ideas of not bullying, accepting everyone, and spreading joy have to center around LGBT issues with you? You could work towards more real change if you addressed the bigger problems at hand rather than focusing on how these problems affect one specific group of people. Literal babies, her words, not mine, do not need to learn about sex, feminism, gender, drag, and a bunch of other far-left ideals in order to grasp the concept that everyone is different but is deserving of respect regardless of their differences. This TED Talk sounded nice and all, but when you really look closer, the logic simply doesn't hold up. This queer kid stuff TED Talk has gone terribly wrong. Please give this video a like, comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you all soon. Peace.